Welcome back to News First on PNC. Kloppenburg Enterprises is preparing to file suit against former GRTA employee and Adeloop aide Ray Tapasnia for defamation. On Tuesday, Tapasnia testified at an oversight hearing for the GUAM Regional Transit Authority, where he claimed that Kloppenburg had been debarred by the GUAM Department of Administration. PNC's Janela Carrera reports.
On Tuesday, Ray Tapasnia, a former Adeloop aide, made these claims against Kloppenburg Enterprises.
A 2012 review by the Office of Civil Rights, that's OCR, and that's part of the Federal Transportation Administration, identified 33 findings, some of which may be directly attributed to the operations of the current contractor. And B, at one point, the current contractor had been debarred by the Department of Administration, and this decision was upheld by the courts for nonconformance to ADA standards.
The oversight hearing was held by the Committee on Transportation following an alarming audit report by the Office of Public Accountability that found the GRTA had misused over $670,000 in funding, some of which was from overbilling by contractor Kloppenburg Enterprises. Vice President Brad Kloppenburg was just 2 seats away from Tapasnia when he made these claims, and he was quick to deny them. And now, 2 days later, President Bruce Kloppenburg says they plan to take Tapasnia to court.
I don't know where he came from, but he said some pretty derogatory statements in there. One that we're going to really look into is that we have been debarred by DOA. To our knowledge, we've never been debarred by anybody, anywhere, at any time in 55 years of doing business on GUAM. So that's news to us. That was an outright lie.
We spoke with Tapasnia today to get more information on his claims, and he says he has copies of a letter from a company requesting for DOA to have Kloppenburg debarred. Tapasnia claims the matter was taken to court and later upheld. Still, Kloppenburg believes Tapasnia has a personal agenda against GRTA and Kloppenburg, noting that Tapasnia had been fired from GRTA, and Tapasnia himself testified that he was forced out of his Adeloop job when he opened his mouth about alleged corruption at the Mass Transit Agency.
I'm going to take it as far as I can to clear up our name. I mean, we don't deserve any of this. We provide an excellent service. We're making good progress, I feel.
Janela Carrera, PNC News.
A Tenorio ad sign was torched early this morning, specifically on the part of the sign that has a picture of gubernatorial candidate and current Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio. According to a release from the BOTA campaign, at around 5 a.m. this morning, a Tenorio ad supporter woke to his wife's screams. The wife saw someone in a blue car, quote, torching the political sign on their yard. The BOTA campaign says her screaming must have scared them off. The reason for the vandalism is unclear. However, the BOTA campaign is assuming that it could be tied to the election. As they wrote in their release, quote, it's ratcheting up to be a tough election season, but that's no reason to trespass, vandalize personal property, and frighten families, end quote. The Tenorio ad campaign says this is not an isolated incident, as other signs in other areas around the island have been damaged as well. Campaign spokeswoman Tina Blas says, quote, even as the campaign climate heats up, we will continue to run this campaign based on respect for our people and our community, end quote. GPD was notified of the vandalism and a report was filed. 3 legislative committees held a joint roundtable discussion yesterday on existing laws, penalties, and standard operating procedures related to deterring gun violence in our schools. Senators met with members of the Superior Court, the Department and Board of Education, GPD, and the AG's office to go over the gun violence awareness measures that are currently in place in the schools. Vince Napati of the Superior Court's Marshals Division training staff said that marshals have trained about 14,000 people, 10,000 of them from the public schools. He says school resource officers, or SROs, work hand in hand with the administration and serve as mentors to the students in addition to being their trainers. Homeland Security Chair Senator Talina Nelson asked what kind of programs they have. Napati described one pilot program in place where they go into schools, meet with students to show them a video and PowerPoint presentation, and then hold a demonstration to show students what a gun sounds like.
We did a weapons demonstration so they can hear the stimulus response to it. So stimulus response, you can see it, you can hear it, and so the children or the students were very receptive to it. They were comprehending. Okay, these are dangerous weapons. This is what it sounds like.
I'm just gonna a weapons demonstration, and what do you mean by that?
Well, we fire off some ammunition rounds because.
Wait, what?
We fire off some ammunition rounds so they're blanks. And so what it is we bring it to the schools. We allow them to do what we call a shelter in place or a lockdown.
Deputy says that kind of training is reserved for high school level students. Justice Committee Chair Senator Teresa Lahi asked for a copy of that training curriculum. Captain Kim Santos brought up the point that although the Marshal's Office conducts the training, GPD officers would likely be the first responders. Deputy agreed with Santos that the two departments should work together on those procedures. Have an emergency that requires police assistance in the Hagana area? Well, unfortunately, the Hagana precinct is not the place to go, as that precinct has been shut down as a result of the GUAM financial crisis. PNC's Jolene Toves with this report.
Yesterday, GPD announced the closure of an entire precinct and posted a sign on the precinct doors notifying residents to contact another precinct for assistance. The closure of the Hagana precinct was prompted by the current government financial crisis, and unfortunately, one of the first agencies to take cuts and make adjustments to relieve some of the financial burden is none other than agencies critical to the public safety of the community, namely GFD and the GUAM Police Department. GPD spokesperson Sergeant Paul Tapao shared on the Andrea Pellicani show why shutting down the precinct was a viable option.
With the realignment of the officers, they have been rotated to the entire precinct, with the entire personnel under the Hagana Precinct Command have been realigned so that we can assist the Department of Corrections with the personnel shortage and the issues that's plaguing them with the overtime. And, you know, again, we're taking this as a holistic approach from the government standpoint, from law enforcement. With that realignment, we've taken now officers that are assigned to the Special Operations Division, and they are now covering filling the gap, so to say, that is left behind by the patrol officers that have been realigned to the Department of Corrections.
But what effect does shutting down an entire precinct have on public safety?
And in the same token, we are also being assisted by other law enforcement agencies that are under the umbrella of the executive branch. So they're committing their law enforcement officers to assist us with our daily patrol operations.
Tapao states that all operations have ceased with the exception of the detention processing section. But despite this, he assures that patrol of the central villages will remain the same.
Now the Hagana precinct is being closed. The reason is because of the fact that we are taking that desk watch officer and we are actually infusing him into the patrol aspect so that we can have more personnel in coverage.
Tapao says the closure of Hagana precinct allows for 2 additional officers to be placed on patrol. But it also means that residents must now go to the southern precinct, Dededo precinct, or the Tumon precinct for assistance until further notice. Reporting for PNC News, I'm Jolene Toves.
All right, let's check in with Joy Atalik for our PNC weather report.